Hello, everybody. This is Empowering Democracy. I'm your host, Joe Firestone, and it's 4 p.m. Eastern Time on April 11th, 2024. The topic for today is once again Biden and Assange. I guess not the most exciting title in the world, but the news is at least somewhat exciting. Let me share the screen for a Common Dreams piece. This is a news piece, not an opinion piece. There's a photo labeled "A supporter of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange protests outside the Australian High Commission in central London on April 10th, 2024. Quote, do the right thing, unquote, say Assange defenders as Biden mulls dropping the case. Quote, this would be the best decision Biden ever made, unquote, said one supporter of the jailed WikiLeaks publisher. This is another article by Brett Wilkins, April 10th, 2024. U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday said his administration is weighing the Australian government's request to drop charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, who has been deprived of his freedom since 2010 and is currently jailed in London's notorious Belmarsh prison while fighting extradition to the United States. Asked by reporters at the White House about requests from Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and members of the country's parliament for the U.S. and United Kingdom to drop the extradition effort and charges against Assange, an Australian citizen, Biden said that, quote, we're considering it. Stella Assange, Julian's wife, responded to Biden's remark on social media, quote, do the right thing, unquote, she wrote, quote, drop the charges, hashtag free Assange now. Srećko Horvat, a Croatian philosopher and co-founder of the Democracy in Europe Movement 2025, ZEM 2025. The other co-founder is Yanis Varoufakis. Pan-European Progressive Political Party said that, quote, this would be the best decision Biden ever made, unquote. Now, what will be the best decision he ever made is cutting off all arms from Israel for the genocide in Gaza. Anyway, going on, but this would be a very, very good decision. Don't want to take anything away from this decision. The treatment of Assange has been outrageous. It has been a severe attack on freedom of the press. It is reprehensible. All of the American presidents who have prosecuted this are to blame for this severe attack on civil liberties. The Obama administration, the Trump administration, and the Biden administration. It's a scandal that these executives do not respect our civil liberties rights. They do not respect our civil liberties. From my point of view, that is an impeachment offense. I consider it an impeachment offense. Unfortunately, there are very few others who do. British journalist Afshin Rattansi asked, quote, why has Julian Assange been put through this ordeal in the first place? To scare journalists all over the world into behaving. That's why. We all know why. We all know why. It's to crush freedom of the press. It's to tell journalists what their boundaries are. It's to tell them not to embarrass the United States by pointing out to illegal, barbaric, and vicious activities being committed by it. That's why. As POTUS responds, quote, we're considering it to a media question. This is an RSF Interfollow tweet about Australia's request to drop the prosecution of Julian Assange. RSF reiterates our longstanding call on the Biden administration to drop these charges, close the case, and hashtag free Assange. It's time to free Assange, to hashtag free Assange, says the graphic. Assange, who is 52 years old and suffers from various health problems, faces multiple U.S. charges under the Espionage Act and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act for his role in publishing classified government documents, some of them revealing war crimes and other misdeeds. What happened to the perpetrators of the war crimes? Nothing. What happened to Assange? Spent 14 years either dodging prison or being in prison. 14 years of his life gone. How many years of their lives are the perpetrators of the war crime given up? Among the files published by WikiLeaks are the, quote, collateral murder, unquote, video, which shows a U.S. Army helicopter crew killing a group of Iraqi civilians, the Afghan and Iraq war logs. 3 U.S. administrations have pursued charges against Assange during the administration of former President Donald Trump, who is the presumptive 2024 Republican nominee. Officials, including then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, allegedly plotted to assassinate Assange to avenge WikiLeaks' publication of the, quote, Vault 7, unquote, documents exposing CIA electronic warfare and surveillance activities, actually probably performed under Section 702 of the FISA Act. In 2010, Trump called for Assange's execution. The UK High Court ruled last month that Assange could not be immediately extradited to the US, where he faces up to 175 years behind bars if convicted on all counts. The tribunal gave the Biden administration until April 16th to guarantee that Assange won't face the death penalty. Absent such assurance, Assange will be allowed to continue appealing his extradition. Last month, Assange's legal team denied reports that a plea deal with the U.S. government may have been in the works. Julian Assange has been in prison in Belmarsh since 2019. Before that, he spent nearly 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he had been granted political asylum under the government of leftist former President Rafael Correa. Here's a WikiLeaks tweet. Thursday, the 11th of April, will mark 5 years since Julian Assange has been incarcerated in the UK's most secure prison for publishing, having been detained in the UK in one form or another for almost 14 years. For championing the public's right to know, he faces a 175-year sentence if, I read the rest from Twitter, if extradited to the U.S., while UN experts have warned he is at risk of torture and will not survive. Julian Assange, who revealed war crimes and human rights violations, remains separated from his wife and 2 young children. It was revealed in court recently that the CIA drew up plans to assassinate the publisher. Following WikiLeaks' Vault 7 release, the U.S. refused to assure UK judges that Assange won't be executed if he's extradited. All major free speech press and human rights organizations have called for the publisher's release, including Amnesty, Reporters Without Borders, ACLU, PAN, HRW, the International Federation of Journalists, NUJ, the New York Times, The Guardian, El País, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, as well as heads of state and politicians from around the world. Amnesty, quote, the U.S. must stop its politically motivated prosecution of Assange, which puts Assange and media freedom at risk worldwide. In trying to imprison him, the U.S. is sending an unambiguous warning to publishers and journalists everywhere that they too could be targeted, that it's not safe for them to receive and publish classified material, even if doing so is in the public interest. And there is Julian Assange, looking much older than his 52 years. Julian Assange, political prisoner. Absolutely. Back to the article. The United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention found in 2016 that Assange had been arbitrarily deprived of his freedom since his first arrest on December 7, 2010. 2019, Niels Melzer, then the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, said Assange had been subjected to, quote, psychological torture, unquote. I'm sure all 14 years was psychological torture. Following the High Court's decision last month, Amnesty International legal advisor Simon Crowder said that, quote, the U.S. must stop its politically motivated prosecution of Assange, which puts Assange and media freedom at risk worldwide. Of course, the prosecution of Assange should be dropped. Of course, Assange should be freed. Of course, he should never be prosecuted in the first place. All of this goes without saying. The question now is, what compensation will he be given for these 14 years? What deterrent is there for the United States, okay, or other states to not do this again to some other journalist whose only crime is revealing the truth about what they do? This needs to stop. It needs to stop now. And the practice which the U.S. engaged in here has to be discontinued. We need Congress to make this kind of persecution illegal, to unconditionally protect, under the First Amendment, the rights of publishers to print whatever falls into their hands, whatever they think is in the interests of the public to publish. That's what freedom of the press actually means. That's what we need if we're going to have any freedom of the press in this country. Well, I don't see any comments. Your phone is making noise, okay, and interfering. Huh?
It was saying what you're saying.
I know. It's an echo. It's making noise. You have to turn it off. So, folks, if there are no comments, then I'm going to tell you that I will have another stream today. It will be at 8 o'clock. It will probably be roughly an hour, okay, in duration. The topic is empowering democracy, stopping the dance of death, and pushing the future forward. Description is Phyllis Bennis, Jackson Lears, and Jeffrey Sachs reflect on ending the escalation dynamics of U.S. foreign policy. And Pepe Escobar reports on Russia-China planning for the future, while everyone anticipates Iran's retaliatory move, against Israel, and of course hopes that this retaliatory move will not result, in an escalation that drags the United States into war against Iran. Again, whether or not that happens is up to Biden. He needs to stop the war in Gaza. He needs to stop shipping arms to Israel unless there is a ceasefire observed by all the major actors in this situation, especially by Israel, that band of international war criminals. So, lacking any comments, that's all for right now. And I will see you hopefully at 8 p.m.